Thanks for joining us. Your Weather Watch continues. I'm Emily Vukovic, and here are today's developing stories. A full day of freeze. We're talking about freezing rain and the first 30-degree day in Canada. Who's going to get that? And thunderstorms this afternoon moving in through parts of Ontario. We'll talk about that right now as our Storm Watch coverage continues. Snow, freezing rain, and rain. Certainly the story throughout northern Ontario. Some areas are getting hit really hard with heavy snow. We're looking at an additional 20 to 30 centimeters of snow. Armstrong up through Pickle Lake, Fort Hope through Geraldton. So traveling in those areas going to be very dicey. Why? Because you throw on heavy snow and then a little bit of freezing rain. Anywhere along this warm front throughout the day today, we've got this area of high pressure. Now to the south, it is literally a whole other season. We have winds coming in from the south. That's really going to be warming things up. Once this cold front moves through, that is our chance to see some convective activity, more so around the dinner time hour, kind of in between 6 and 8. That is where we could be seeing some isolated thunderstorms pretty much anywhere along the shores of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. Temperature gradient is insane. Look at Thunder Bay, -1 feeling like -7. You drive over towards Sudbury, yeah, it'll take you a day, but you're looking at a 24-degree difference. 24 degrees feeling like 28. It is going to feel more like 24 in Toronto and feel more like 27 in Kingston. Get all of that hot, soupy air, mix that with a cold front. Here's where you can get that convective activity. We're looking at non-severe thunderstorms for the most part, Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, but as you get into cottage country around the shores of Georgian Bay, North Bay through Huntsville, down through Barrie, could see some decent sized hail, heavy rain, strong winds, and we're not ruling out the risk for an isolated tornado either. Looking at the future radar, you can see the cells firing up down towards the southwest later on this afternoon. This morning, I mean, we're already seeing temperatures in the 20s through Windsor. We are going to continue to see this active weather push through towards the Ottawa region by later on this afternoon into tomorrow and tomorrow night, and then it continues to move its way east. Hi, your Weather Watch continues. I'm Emily Vukovic. We're taking a look at your system maps right across the country today. Fairer conditions through parts of BC. Still have this monster storm throughout northern Ontario and in through Atlantic Canada. Freezing rain is the story again for you in Newfoundland. We'll get to more details in just a moment, but first it's time for you to share your weather. Enjoying it. Why not? Freezing rain, like I was saying, this is your story. Icy weather ahead through parts of Newfoundland. We've got that risk today and into tomorrow morning. We have been seeing freezing rain already. You've been looking at the radar on your local forecast. You've seen it falling. A beautiful shot from Fredericton, New Brunswick. Crocuses coming up. Oh, it means it's spring, right? Right? I know, spring, and I'm talking about snow and freezing rain through northern Ontario. More throughout the day today. The good news is that it is going to be easing throughout the day tomorrow. Temperatures to the south, it's like a whole other country. We're looking at temperatures potentially hitting 30 degrees through Niagara Falls throughout the day today. We've got a lot of warm air coming in from the south. Temperatures are literally going to be sizzling within like a 4-hour drive from the north to areas like Timmins. Look at Timmins, 24 feeling like 28. Kapuskasing still hot, but Thunder Bay, you're into the minus territories. It's going to be cold. And it's going to look like this. This is in through Thunder Bay. Unfortunately, this is what freezing rain can do to trees, to power lines. A lot of people without power, very slippery road conditions. Great shot from Toronto, Ontario. Brent sent this in, and the beautiful CN Tower. We are going to be seeing some sunshine today throughout the city, so I think a lot of people are going to be happy about that. In through Ottawa, it is always nice when you start to see the buds come out on the trees, and a spectacular photo of cherry blossoms in through London, Ontario. Hi there, I'm Emily Vukovic. Your Weather Watch continues with these developing stories. A full day of freeze, not only through northern Ontario, but Newfoundland. I'm looking at you again. The first 30-degree day in Canada. Is someone going to hit it? We'll tell you who has the potential. And thunderstorms this afternoon through parts of Ontario. We'll tell you who's at the greatest risk. Across the west, it seems more wintry, but here's Deb Mediachka with some good news. Thanks, Deb. Could you hear the birds chirping in the background? You know the sign of spring is there, right? It's coming. She's got to get over that hump, like she said. All right, to the west, Edmonton, we're looking at 5 today. Calgary, 5, still 10 to 15 degrees below seasonal right across the prairie provinces. Finally, a nice day for you in Vancouver. We're drying out. We'll stay that way for the next couple of days. We've got some snow along the foothills, unfortunately. So, I mean, spring skiing still happening. Now, throughout Ontario, we are in storm watch for our coverage. It's all about the snow, the freezing rain, and the rain, as well as thunderstorms today throughout Ontario. We're looking at an additional snowfall forecast, 20 to 30 centimeters to the north. With that, I'm going to turn things over to Chris Murphy. He's going to look at today's top videos. Yeah, it's been a bit of a nightmare for folks living in through parts of Northern Ontario. Thanks for joining us. I'm Emily Vukovic. I'm going to provide you with some more detail on what's happening throughout Northern Ontario today. We do have more rain on the way through the south. We've got some snow to the north. We've got a mix of freezing rain in that band. The additional snowfall, we're looking at about 20 to 30 centimeters through Armstrong, up through Geraldton, Fort Hope, and through Pickle Lake. This is where we're going to be seeing the more intense snowfall amounts. We've already seen a fairly decent accumulation. Looking along this warm front, that is our biggest risk of freezing rain. Places like Thunder Bay have already picked up about 23 hours of it. Now to the south, it's like you're in a completely different province, completely different country at this point. 10 to 15 degrees above seasonal. We're looking at Niagara Falls to potentially reach 30 degrees today. Warmest day of the year so far. You can thank that southerly flow that's coming up from the south. We're looking at temperatures 23 in Windsor, feeling more like 27 when you factor in that humidity. Kingston, 23 degrees, feeling like 27. But then look at Thunder Bay. Such a huge, so can we. All right, we've got freezing rain through parts of Newfoundland today. This is going to be more so through the northern peninsula, northern shores. We're looking at it kind of stretching over towards the Bonavista Peninsula. This is going to continue throughout the day today and then throughout the day tomorrow. Temperatures just hovering right around that freezing mark. Now, the temperatures to the west are finally going to start to rebound. I know you've been sitting in snow and cold air. Well, that cold air, it is going to be lifting its way east and north, and you're going to be seeing a bit of a warming trend coming into the weekend. Hi there. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Emily Vukovic, and we're taking a look at what's happening through eastern Canada through Friday. We have got rain on the way. Showers moving in through the Maritime provinces. Significant freezing rain through parts of Newfoundland. Where have you heard that before? Oh, I know. It was late last week and then through the weekend. But for you in St. John's, you're just on the cusp of this. You're not going to get 60 hours like you previously saw. But anywhere from the Bonavista through Gander, western shores, up through the northern peninsula, you are going to be seeing an extended period of freezing rain, which is not going to be fun to be commuting in, that's for sure. Thank you so much, Deb. What a touching story. Coming up next Wednesday, Storm Hunters, all about Fort McMurray, 7 p.m. Eastern. You certainly don't want to miss it. Your Weather Watch continues. I'm Emily Vukovic. Thank you so much for joining us. We've been talking about some stormy weather across the Prairie provinces. We've been talking about stormy weather in Ontario and in Atlantic Canada. It's like, come on, Mother Nature, we want to see some spring. And in an extended area, we've got it all through kind of the western shores, up through the northern peninsula, straight across the northern shores, right in through the Bonavista. St. John's, like, you're kind of right on the cusp of this. And you're probably thinking, well, we dealt with 60 hours earlier this week, so we're good. We can have, everyone else can share it, right? Well, because of that area of high pressure that's kind of settled in nicely over Hudson Bay, we are seeing that flow of cold air in 23 hours so far. Now, to the south, it's a whole other ballgame. Literally, we're talking about winter to the north. We're talking about summer to the south. Potential is there for some rotation. Now, this is going to be mostly through cottage country around the dinner hour. The rainfall amounts, they're fairly decent. We're looking at 10 to 20 millimeters. But of course, if we do see thunderstorm activity, when you do get that isolated thunderstorm and it just pours, well, of course, those rainfall amounts could certainly be going up. So be prepared for that. Focusing now on the east as we get closer to the weekend, temperatures exactly where they should be. So we're going to cool down from the heat today. Taking a look now at your national long-range forecast, joining me, meteorologist Dr. Doug Gillum. You're showing us an early May temperature pattern.
And you're not happy.
Well, there are a couple of choice words that I could be using here, but I want you to explain why this is happening.
Well, the jet stream is diving to the south, so that's going to allow a northwest flow of overall colder than normal temperatures centered on the Great Lakes region. Meanwhile, in the west, we start cool, but a real nice warm-up at the end of next week. Now, I want to point out, though, seasonal is rising 1 to 2 degrees per week, and this is not a permanent pattern change.
Okay.
Now, Monday, May 1st, below normal in the west with the warm-up coming. Now, we do have 1 day of warm weather in southern Ontario. But in Atlantic Canada, that's where you find the coldest weather in the country on Monday. No, despite some sunshine, high temperatures struggling to get very far above zero in Newfoundland.
Wow, okay, so it's really that roller coaster.
Yes.
It's going to continue because in Monday through southern Ontario, here we are holding on to the warmth, but some wet weather moving through.
And what a contrast across Ontario. We have temperatures in the lower 20s in the south. Meanwhile, we are watching northern Ontario for potentially another snowstorm. More on that in a minute, but we do see you get away from the lakes, Lower 20s on Monday, but take a look at what happens on Tuesday. We lose 10 to 15 degrees across southern Ontario.
Huge contrast. Be ready for it. Here's that snowstorm that we were just mentioning, because you haven't seen enough snow and freezing rain in Thunder Bay.
Yeah, they're right. And another round early next week. Still uncertainty on the track. The track's a little bit further to the west, and the heavier snow would be northwest of Thunder Bay. We're watching this region for another swath of significant snow impacting travel in the Trans-Canada. Rain and thunderstorms move across southern Ontario, not a washout. And here's the warm sector where we will briefly warm up on Monday. And then note on Tuesday, yes, potentially some mixing in the higher terrain up towards Georgian Bay and Lake Huron.
All right, quick look at the Thunder Bay forecast. Here's that messy mix that Doug was mentioning that could be hitting us kind of early next week. And temperatures warming up again to the west.